Good evening and welcome to Tamil Heritage Trust's monthly Heritage Talk. I'm delighted to welcome all of you to this evening's talk for March 2023. For those of you who are new to Tamil Heritage Trust, a very quick introduction. We were established way back in 2010 with the objective of understanding, appreciating, disseminating, and celebrating India's rich and varied heritage. Towards this, we have a number of programs and events, seminars, and so on. The most consistent of which has been our monthly Heritage Talk, which happens every month on the first Saturday, and this has been going on for the last almost 13 years now. Since the pandemic started and we had to move online, our range of scholars addressing Tamil Heritage Trust has expanded to all over India, and so also the range of topics. We also have an in-person talk here in Chennai, which is also available online subsequently, which is in Tamil and addresses topics of interest in Tamil speaking areas. Now, one of our other programs is the Pechi Kacheri, which is an annual 2-day seminar. We call it a seminar, however, it's for the public, where the academic scholars can address the public on a certain topic. The most recent one, the topic was Vijayanagara, and we had 10 different lectures on the same topic, talking about the beginnings, the history, the paintings, the architecture, and so on and so forth. We also have a similar event online called the Indology Festival, where we have a week-long festival of ideas about something that is specific to Indology. The most recent one was Temple Builders of Medieval India, where we covered the period between 8th to 13th centuries to provide the audience an idea of what was happening in various parts of the country around the same period of medieval India. All our talks are available to view free of cost at our YouTube channel. YouTube, if you can go to Tamil Heritage Trust, you'll be able to find it. They're all available there, and we request you to subscribe to the channel as well as click on the bell icon so that you will receive notifications whenever a new talk is on. We also conduct workshops, how to see a temple, Pallava Grantham, scripts, and so on and so forth, and an annual site seminar where a group of a team of people visit certain monuments in certain cities and places of historical and heritage importance after having studied and thoroughly prepared for it. So every participant is both a student and a teacher during these site seminars. Our next workshop is the House Hat or the How to See a Temple workshop, which is a full-day workshop which has lectures in the morning about temple architecture, iconography, and all the features of a temple that make it a repository of our rich heritage. And in the afternoon, we take the participants to the temple on a field visit to observe for themselves what they have learned in the morning during the course of the day. And the next one is coming up in Chennai on Sunday, March 19th. So if you haven't signed up for it, and if you're based in Chennai, you may want to sign up for the House Hat program. We also have a Teacher Connect program, a fledgling program where we try and assist teachers who are already taking the word of Indian heritage to their students and to their communities, where we can support them with heritage clubs and other such activities. We give away a couple of awards annually. One of them was inaugural edition was started last year. It's called the V. Venkaya Epigraphy Award, where the family of Shri Venkaya, who was the first Indian chief epigraphist of the country, and in his honor, we are giving away an award. The family has retained us to do the selection process as well as to hold the award lecture and so on. The first winner of the first edition of that award was Dr. Y. Subbarayalu. We also give away an award in the name of our co-founder, Professor Swaminathan, who retired from IIT Delhi as professor and is part of the inspiration for the Tamil Heritage Trust. And we have been doing this for the last 3 years, where we recognize individual contributions in the area of heritage. To join our mailing list, please send a mail to admin@tamilheritage.in, and we'll make sure that you don't miss any of our programs that are either online or hybrid here in Chennai. Coming to today's talk, we're extremely happy to have Dr. Vinay Kumar of the Banaras Hindu University. By coincidence, the last talk was also by another illustrious scholar from the same institution, Dr. Vinay Kumar. We welcome you and thank you very much for accepting our invitation to address Tamil Heritage Trust. Dr. Vinay Kumar holds a PhD, a double MA, and a postgraduate diploma in archaeology from the ASI. He is assistant professor of ancient Indian history and culture and archaeology at the BHU at Varanasi. He's a research scholar in Indira Gandhi National Center for Arts in the Indian Archaeological Society in New Delhi. His areas of specialization include field archaeology, art history, and heritage management. He's a polyglot and is well versed in Persian, German, Sanskrit, Odia, Bangla, and Maithili. He has had research fellowships from the UGC, from the National Museum of Korea, the Government of South Korea, and the Nehru Trust for Indian Collections at the Victoria and Albert Museum. He's participated, he is a consultant and an archaeologist with the ASI. He's participated and supervised archaeological excavations at a number of places. He was a director of archaeological excavations at the site of Matigaon for 3 field seasons. He's published over 45 research papers and has authored and edited several books, some of which we will see now. He's a life member and of national and international committees and societies across the world, where he contributes with his expertise in a wide range of areas like we have seen. He's organized several national and international conferences. These are some of the books that Dr. Vinay Kumar has authored. Today we will be hearing from his book on the West Asian and Hellenistic elements in Indian art. He will be talking to us about some of these aspects from Gandhara. And he's also written a book on the early Harappan culture based on his excavation experience. He's been called upon to be part of the editorial team in fest strips for legendary archaeologists like Professor B.B. Lal, Dr. B.R. Mani, and others. He's also edited a volume on art, archaeology, and culture of India, and in Hindi, a book on Puratattva Vaibhava. So we welcome Dr. Vinay Kumar, and we hand it over to him now. Thank you very much, sir, again for accepting our invitation. Over to you now.
Thank you very much, sir, for giving such a beautiful introduction. And I am very much overwhelmed by your kind words. And today I am going to talk about the Gandhara art and its interaction with the Indian art. But before that, I would like to express my gratitude to the organizers of this Tamil Heritage Trust, who has given me an opportunity to interact my views regarding this particular topic. I think my slides are visible.
Yes.
Is it full screen, sir?
No, not yet. Not yet. Or if it is there for you, we are not able to see it.
Just a moment.
We have to get it to full screen and then share.
Is it okay now?
No.
But at my end, it is just full screen.
Yeah. So what you do is you stop sharing and then share the full screen screen. Now, if you have a full screen, then share screen of that.
Is it full screen now, sir?
No.
Even not now?
No, not now either.
Oh.
The one is that you can choose to share the entire desktop. Alternately, in PowerPoint, go to full screen mode and then share
Just I am sharing my this screen. Is it there? Not?
No, no.
Oh, I don't know how to do it.
That's okay. Don't worry. You can go to
Share a screen.
the share
Just
screen. Are you seeing either desktop or full screen instead of
Just,
application? Select.
is it okay?
Yes. Now you are fine.
Okay, sir. So sorry for the inconvenience caused at my part only. So today I am going to talk about the art of the Gandhara art, where the Greco-Roman meets the Indian. But for understanding this one, we have to understand, or we have to see about the time period when this particular art style emerged. So it was the Kushan period, and that was the first century CE. So these Kushans were responsible for the emergence of the two most important school of the art. That was the art of the Kushanas, Gandhara art, as well as the art of Mathura. And these were the centers where these art style developed simultaneously. But what is most important about this Gandhara art is that this art school is being credited for the origin of the Buddha image for the first time. So an extremely productive school of art, Indian art, emerged in this area of the northwest frontier province of the India, which is presently forming the part of the northern Pakistan during the early centuries of the Christian era. So it is popularly known as the Gandhara School of Art, since this region was known as Gandhar, and this particular region was formed by the three major river valleys, the Swat, the Kabul, the Indus, and the mostly north and the west part of the Peshawar, which was the important city of the Pakistan. So prior to that one, we have to understand a little bit about the genealogy or the political scenario of the Kushan or the Kushano, which is in the inscriptions. They are known in the inscriptions as well as on the coins. And they were ruling in the parts of the Central Asia at that time. And they were one of the tribe which is known as the Khoi Chawang. And this particular tribe has been mentioned in the Chinese sources. And this was the name of the tribe, which together with the other tribes, there were 5 confederacies of this tribe. And they formed a tribal confederacy. And the establishment of the Kushan Empire over the parts of the Central Asia, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and the North India can be seen as a landmark in the political as well as the cultural history of this diverse landscape. And the Kushan era, he started a new epoch, which was marked by the political unification, flourishing intercontinental trade that we know about, the famous Silk Route, which developed during this time period only during the Han Dynasty of the China. And a high level of the monetization, urbanization, and the artistic effervescence just were established during this particular Kushan period. And when we talk about the genealogy of the Kushan, for that, we have to rely upon one of the most reliable sources which has been found very recently. That is the Bactrian inscription from the Ravatak in the northern Afghanistan, which help us to clarify the succession of the 3 generations of the Kusan rulers, which was followed by the Kujul that we know he was one of the most important ruler, or can be said as who was the main person who established this dynasty. And although the name of the Bhima Taktu as the direct successor of the Kujul is not entirely clear. And the Ravatak inscription, he confirms that the Kujul was followed by another ruler before the Bhima and who was the father of Kanishk, the most important ruler in the Indian land. And the Bhima Taktu can be linked with the Sutramegas on the coins inscriptions. We find this one, Sutramegas, meaning the great savior, and the Kusan ruler who issued a series of the coins that follow the coin type of the Kujul and precede those of the Bhima empire between the time of the Kujul as well as the Bhima So you can see here this sequence of the Kushana rulers on the basis of this Ravatak inscription. Here you can see, and what are the other inscription for the evidence or the collaboration of their existence. So you can see here, we have the coins and the other inscriptions, as well as the Ravatak inscription, the main inscription on which basis we have been able to find about the genealogy of these Kushanas. You can see here the Kujul Kadphasis, Bhima Taktu, then Bhima second Kadphasis, then Kanishk first, Yubisk, Vasudev, Kanishk second, Vasisk, Kanishk third, Vasudev second, Shaka and Kipunanda. So all these are the genealogy which have been now established by the scholars in case of the Kushanas. So based on this genealogy of this Ravatak inscription, the dated inscription of the Kanishka and his successors, a rough chronology of the Kushan rulers can be just proposed. So you can see here, they started from the 100 CE, that is the first century, and you can see these all are the important rulers. And the main Kushan rulers were the first ruler was the Helios or the Helios, who ruled from 1 to 30 AD and was one of, for the short period, his time period was of very short duration. So after this, his successor Kujul Kadphasis, he ruled from 30 to 80 CE or AD to assume the role of a true monarch, and he unified to this Yuchi tribe, a Yuzi tribe under the Kushan banner in the 4th century AD. After gradually wresting control of the Bactria from the Scythian as well as the Indo-Parthian, Kujul Kadphasis moved the Kushan tribe into the region known as the Gandhar, that is northwestern Afghanistan and the northern Pakistan, with the main capital at Takshila at that time, that was the northwestern Pakistan, and the summer capital was at Bagram. So known as, in ancient time, it was known as Kapisha, which is near the present-day Bagram air base. So which has also served as a major trading center also. So from these two capitals of Takshila as well as Kapisha, and plus other settlement and trading posts further north, the Kushan became the master traders and adopted the Greek alphabets and struck their own gold coins featuring the Kushan royal portraits and the Greek mottos and the symbol inspired by the Roman coins that were widely used at that time to purchase the good from the caravan along the Silk Road that we know. And by positioning themselves at the center of the Silk Road, midway between the China and India in the east and the Mediterranean world in the west, the Kushan became a world power, second only to the China and the Rome at that time, and the first unified force in Afghanistan to dispense rather than receive the authority on this particular area. So in 48 AD, the Kujul Kadphasis crossed the Hindu Kush mountain and he formed an alliance with the last Greek king in the region, that was the Hermias in the Kabul valley, who allowed the Kujalas and Bhima Kadphasis to attack, and he defeated the Scythian, who were known as Saka at that time, and in northern India, and he established an empire that his successor continued to enlarge until it extended from the Ganges River in the east to the Gobi Desert in the north. Then Bhima Kadphasis was the son of the Bhima Taktu, and he was the ruler of he issued the series of the coins and inscription, and the Bhima Kadphasis conquered large part of the North India that we know. And in the coins of the Bhima Kadphasis, so that his authority extended up to the Banaras and also till the Indus basin. The valor of this king extended from Narmada to the Shak Satrapas in the Malava, and the Western India acknowledged his sovereignty. So you can understand, and you can see here, the vast concurrence of this particular ruler, Bhima Kadphasis, is such a vast empire. And the rule of the Kanishk I, the great Kushan emperor, who was the 5th Kushan ruler, as per the Ravatak inscription, he flourished for at least 28 years in Indian subsoil. And the Kushan Empire thus saw the rising success, especially when having contacts with the Rome during the 2nd century and with the China during the 1st and 2nd century AD. And regarding the Kushana, we know that the Kushan religious pantheon is extremely varied, as revealed by their coins and their seals, on which more than 30 different gods appear, belonging to the Hellenestic, the Iranian, and to a lesser extent, the Indian world. And the Greek deities with the Greek names are represented on the early coins. During the Kanishka's reign, the language of the coinage changes to the Bactrian, And after Huvisk, only two these divinities appear on the coins, that is Ardoksho, which is the correspondent with the Lakshmi, as well as the Oisho or the Shiva. And the Kushan were responsible for the two school of art, which I told you when we talk about the art style, that is the Gandhar as well as the Mathura school. And the northern portion of the Kushan Empire were exposed to the Roman influence, that we can say that this Gandhar was totally influenced by this Roman world, as well as it flourished in the northwest part of India. And the southern portion of the Kushan Empire, who had the capital at Mathura, was the center of the Mathura school of art. Coming to our main topic of Gandhar art, this was a brief background about the people who were responsible for the execution of this art style, or that is the Gandhara art. So when we talk about this Gandhara art, this word Gandhar is variously recorded in the ancient text. It is the combination of the two Sanskrit words, that is the Gandh, meaning the fragrance, as well as the Har, meaning by the land or the region. So thus the term Gandhar literally signifies the land of the fragrance. And the other, when we talk about the other meaning of this particular term, Gandhara, the Gandh in Sanskrit is a red lead, and it was important ingredient of the beautifying product of makeup of the Indian woman, which was mainly produced in Persia, and it was imported via the Gandhara Silk Route to India as well as the Mediterranean. And this term Gandhar was for the first time reported in the Rig Veda, in which the term is used to identify clearly a region which is located on the northwest frontier of India. It is mentioned in Rig Veda in the context of producing the good quality of the wool, which describe the fat-tailed sheep coming from the Gandhar region. And it is further mentioned in the Atharva Veda, the Sutra literature, and many of the Sanskrit as well as the Pali text of the later time. So it was one of the 16th great Mahajanpad, which is mentioned in the Anguttara Nikaya, and it was divided on the basis of the people who lived in this particular region. And the tradition records that the name of the Gandhar was derived from the name of a king whose name was Drahyu, who was the son of Angara. And according to Mahaparinirvana Sutta of the Buddhist faith, one tooth relic of Buddha went to Gandhar. Probably, according to the other scholars, the name of Gandhar is derived from the Gandharv. Basically, they were the good-looking, like the angels, and the limb or the apsaras. They were well versed in music as well as in dance. And according to some scholars, this particular name of Gandhara is derived from the military regiment, that is a Skandharvara. And according to the Greek, this particular region of this Gandhara was known as Arachosia, and a locality which is near the Kandhar is called the Dand, which even today it means the army. And they were the marital traditions which continued through the ages in this particular region. And as per the Behustin inscription of the Darius first of the Persia, he mentions this inscription mentions this region as the part of the Persian Achaemenid Empire, from where the supply of the yak wood was imported into other part of the world at that time, at the time of the Kushanas. Besides the accounts which I have just mentioned above, the word Gandhar is also mentioned by the various Greek historians such as the Herodotus, Hetakeitos, Ptolemy, and Strabo, who record it in various forms as the Gandharoi, Gandharei, as well as Gandharitis. And according to the Herodotus, Darius first, he appointed Scylax, who was a Greek captain, to explore the lower reaches from Kabul down to Indus in the south Peshawar. So, beside this, we also find the mention of this particular region of Gandhar in the context of the Kekai, who belong to this particular region, which is mentioned in the Ramayana, in our epic. And in the other epic of Mahabharata, also we know that the Gandhari, who was the wife of this Kauravas, she was from this region of the Gandhar. And always we know about from the Mahabharata, there was a hard discussion between the Karna and the Salya for this region also. And Tapassu and Bhallik, when we talk about the Buddhist tradition, the Tapassu and Bhallik, who were supposed to be the two of the Upashak of the Lord Buddha, they were connected with this region of the this is known as Uktala or this Gandhara with the Madhu Gokala in the Buddha, which is mentioned in the Vinay Pitaka as well as the Mahabhagya text. And Lalit Vistar, which is also one of the important texts, Buddhist text, it also mentions about these two merchant about the Tapashu as well as Vallik. And the Mahavastu, according to Mahavastu, we know about the gift of the ghee as well as the honey at the time of the Buddha. And the famous physician at the time of the Buddha, Jivak, he had the training at the site of Takshila, who was one of the important learning center at that time. And the many students from the Kasi or the Banaras region, they went there at that place during the time of this Buddha in this particular region of the Gandhar to take their education. And when we talk about the famous Buddhist, Chinese travelers, Faxian as well as Faiyan, or the Faxian or Faiyan as well as the Huensang, they also write about the Buddha's visit to the Udayan, that the place Udayan that is thus associated with this particular region of the Gandhar. And when we talk about the accounts of the Huensang, he has mentioned about the construction of the so many stupas at the site of the Bamiyan by a Shaka king, which I will be talking later on. So when we talk about the geographical location of this particular region, you can see here in the map, this was the land of ambiguous rulers as well as the invaders, and it was a melting point of the culture. And you can see here in the map, this is the map showing the area of the ancient Gandhar between the Pakistan as well as the Afghanistan. And you can see these all are the important centers where this particular art style developed. So when we talk about the geography of this region, so this Gandhar is a mountainous region which is located between the meeting point of the Hindu Kush as well as the Himalayan mountain range. And the Gandhar country was rich in water resource and had dense forests in its various valleys. And it was situated between the India, Central as well as the Western Asia. The geographical location of this particular region of the Gandhara was very favorable for the development as well as the promotion of the cultural interaction around these regions of the old world at that time. And I have already told you about this Chinese pilgrim, Huensang, who traveled to India in 629 AD. He mentioned that this Gandhar encompassed the area located on the west bank of the Indus River and included the Peshawar Valley as well as the present-day Swat, Buner, as well as the Bazaar. And according to Beale's translation of the Huensang, the kingdom of the Gandhar was about 1,000 li from east to west and 800 li, that is the Chinese mile, and 1 li is equal to 500 meters from north to south. Or in other words, we can say that about 100 kilometers from east to west and 70 kilometers from north to south was the area of this particular Gandhara region. And it was bifurcated by the Indus into two parts. So it is a rocky triangular region surrounded by the hills of Pakistan as well as Afghanistan. So on the east, it is bordered by the river Sindh, that was the Sindh river, another name for this Indus river. And the country was rich in cereals and it produced a variety of the flowers and fruits, which I told you about the meaning of the word Gandhar. And it is also abundant in the sugarcane, from the juice of which they prepared the solid sugar. And the capital of the Gandhar was at that time was Puruspur, which is now the present day Peshawar, which was around 40 li in circuit in those times. So when we talk about the core area of this Gandhar, seems to be the region having the Langaman as well as the Jalalabad on the west, and the hill of the Swat as well as the Bunar on the north, the Indus on the east, and the hills of the Kalabag on the south, and the Pushkalavati or the Charshada as well as the Takshashila was capital of the Gandhar in its western and eastern parts, respectively, in later times or during later times. My slides are not. So yeah, you can see here. So this is another map. It is by the courtesy of Dr. B.R. Mani. So this Pali literature also mentioned about this particular region of Gandhar with the areas of the Kashmir. And I told you it was among the 16 great states which is mentioned in this Anguttara Nikaya, that is the Mahajanpadas, and it is associated with here we can find the mention of the region of Kamboj as well as the Madra. And Madra or Madrak or Sindhu or Shavir or Mahasista seems to have covered the greater Gandhar region beyond its core area. This is as per the Mahabharata. And the Gandhar art tradition, which was influenced by the Hellenistic style. I will be talking in detail about all these things. And it remained confined to the core area of this particular region with the more closeness with the Udayan, which I told you where the Lord Buddha had also visited, which is the modern Swat region. So impact of this Gandhar art on the Madhya as well as the Kashmir region has been traced in recent excavation also at the site of Ambaran, that is the Aknur, by Dr. B.R. Mani, as well as at the site of Kanishpur or Kanish. So when we talk about the history of this particular region of the Gandhar, this particular region came under the political influence of the variety of the kingdoms, that were the Greek, Mauryans, Parthian, Kushan, Scythian, as well, and because of the association of these particular dynasties, it resulted in the emergence of a mixed school of art, which borrowed from various traditions of the art. So this school contributed to the development of the Buddhist image or the Buddha image for the first time, which I told you, which was usually carved out of the this gray slate or the schist stone and was characterized by the Hellenistic features. So I will be talking in detail about the mediums of this particular school also. So when we talk about the other name of this school of art, so it is known by the name of Indo-Greek, Indo-Hellenistic, Greco-Buddhist, Indo-Iranian, Indo-Roman, Indo-Bactrian, and Roman Buddhist. So all these names are the synonyms with the name of with the Gandhar art only. So we can find the impact of the Greek, Roman, Bactrian, Scythian, Parthian, Iran, China, and India in this particular school of art. When we talk about the main centers of this particular art, I have already shown you the map. So the main centers were the Peshawar, Takshashila, Tapas Sardar, which is near the Ghazni, Hadda, which is in Afghanistan, and it was formed by the three major river valleys, which I told you, the Swat, Kabul, as well as the Indus. When we talk about the important places from excavation, we have come across the various specimens belonging to this particular school of art was basically the Charshada, ancient Pushkalavati, Jalalabad, Takshila, Swat, Bamiyan, Sahari Bahlol, Takte Bahi, Lorian Tangai. And when we talk about the time period of this particular emergence of this art style, so it was the first century, from 1st century to 3rd century CE. And when we talk about the material which were used for executing the art specimens of this school was basically the bluish stone or the schist stone, stucco, which was made from the cement, lime, as well as the sand, terracotta, ivory, metal, and the murals. And this stone, bluish schist stone, it was basically quarried from the hills of the Swat as well as the Buner region for this art specimen. When we talk about the subject matter, what were the subject matter which we had taken into this particular school? It was the Indian, basically the execution of the Buddha, Bodhisattva, what more particularly the Maitreyi. Then we also find the examples of the Hindu gods like the Brahma and the Indra, Shiva and the Kartikeya in this school of art. So when we talk about the medium for this construction of the various art specimens in this school, you can see here, they have used the stone. Basically, these stones were the white or the buff sandstone, which has been used. I'm talking in general about the Kushana art of the Kushan period. In the Mathura school, they have used the red spotted sandstone, and in the Gandhara school, they have used the blue or the glazed schist. And terracotta, metals also they have used. Stucco in the Gandhara region has been used. Ivory, we find the specimens of this Gandhara art in this made up of the ivory. Then we have the bone objects which have been found from both Gandhar as well as the Mathura region. And we also come across the mural or the paintings from the Gandhar region mainly. And we also find the paintings on the this cotton cloth, which was from the southern Xinjiang province of the China. So these all were the mediums for the making of the art specimens of this particular school of the art. You can see here, this art developed in this particular silk route, which you can see here. You can see this is the silk route which was lying on this particular area, which has given a lot of, which has impacted a lot in the propagation of this particular Gandhara art style. When we talk about the medium, first of all, you see here, these all are the terracotta specimens, basically made in the Hellenistic style. And here you can see here some of the examples of the Gandhara terracotta head from the Gandhara region, which is the present-day Pakistan. And you can see here, this is the head of a donor in the turban, and it is adorned with the jewelry from the made in terracotta from the Gandhar region. You can see these all are the other specimens which were made in the terracotta during the Gandhara period. These are the head of a disciples of the Lord Buddha. You can see. This has been found from the areas of Afghanistan. This is a clay tablet. And this clay tablet has been found out from the northern Bactria, Uzbekistan area. And here we also come across so many metal images in this Gandhara school of art. You can see here, this is the standing figure of the Buddha, which has been found from the Pakistan, made in the bronze here. And we know about the various, this prominence of the coins of these Kushanas that we know about, made up of this, basically the gold as well as the silver. And sometime with this bronze also we come across the coins. You can see here, this is the image of the Avalokiteshwar from the Gandhara region, which is housed now in the Musée de Guémet at Paris. And again, it is made up of the bronze from the Gandhara region. You can see here, this is again from the Metropolitan Museum of the Art, specimens which we are made up in the metals. And here, these all are the stucco images which have been found from the areas, different parts of the areas of this Gandhar region. Again, during another medium is the ivory, which was basically used for the execution of the art specimen during this Kushana period. You can see here the Indian ivory furniture, which was basically from the areas of the Begram in Afghanistan, have been found in excavation. And Indian art also found its way into the Italy with the context of the Indo-Roman trade that we know about. In 1938, the Pompeii Lakshmi was found in the ruins of the Pompeii, which was destroyed in an Jwalamukhi or eruption of the Mount Vesuvius, that is from the lava. You can see here. These all are the specimens. Again, we've come across the examples of so many murals. This is the example of the gold coin. This is the murals also. You can see here how beautifully these paintings were made by the Kushana, these rulers. And when we talk about the technique of the making of these art specimens in the Gandhara style or the Gandhara art, we come across the freestanding chiseled sculptures, which were either made in the stone or the ivory. Then we have the high relief rock cut sculptures. You can see here the example of the Bamiyan. And we have the molded specimens also, which were made in terracotta, stucco, as well as in metal. And we also come across the handmade specimens of the art specimens, whether made in the terracotta as well as in a stucco. So you can see here, these all are the engravings from the Alexander's Burnous travels into Bukhara. And here he has mentioned about this Bamiyan Buddha and this great Buddha from the Bamiyan in the Afghanistan region. You can see here, it was 55 meter tall. And in 2001, this was destroyed by the Taliban's, that we know about this one. So you can see here, this is after the destruction of these art specimens of the Gandhara region or the Gandhara art from the Bamiyan. So when we talk about this, I was talking about this technique. So we have the molding also. You can see here, these beautiful stucco images which were made by the molding technique. And here also these metal objects, they were made by the molding technique here. And some of the terracotta or the stucco or the metal images are the handmade also. You can see here, these all are the important examples of these metal relics which have been come across the different areas of this Gandhar. You can see here, these all are this is the Bimran casket, a reliquary casket. You can see here, these all were made up of the metal. So when we talk about the subject matter, now coming to the subject matter, I told you initially, these sculptures which we come across in the Gandhara art, they are found in the artistic province of the Gandhara, and it can be divided into three mainly groups. The Buddhist deities, where we can find about the image of the Buddha, which is basically, who is always shown basically the cross leg, meditating, as well as sometimes the standing images. And when we talk about the Bodhisattva images in this Buddhist deities pantheon, so they are in the Abhay Mudra, Dhyana Mudra, as well as the preaching Mudra, and they are wearing the Uttriya as well as the Dhoti. Basically, examples here are the Maitreyi as well as the Siddharth. And we also come across the example of the Avalokiteshwar, which is also called as Padmapani, because he is holding the lotus in his hand. And we also come across some specimens of the Manjusri as the subject matter in the Gandhara art. When we talk about the non-Buddhist deities in this Gandhara school of art, here we can find the execution or this image of the Brahma as well as the Indra. And both of them have been made with the images have been taken from the Hindu god pantheon. And the four Maharajas are the Lokpals, which are the guardians of the four cardinal directions. They have been just mentioned. They have been used as the subject matter for the non-Buddhist deities. Then we have the 28 generals of the Yakshas or the nature spirit also. And we also come across the images or the specimens of the Hariti, who is considered to be a protector goddess for the child. And one of the Lokpal, which is known as the Bhairavana or the Kuber, is linked with the Panchika Yaksh that we know. And the most frequently occurring Yaksh, which is known as the Vajrapani, because he is holding a Vajra in his hand. Then we come across the Mara. Then we have also the depiction of this Skand, Kartikeya, Shiva, Iranian Pharaoh or Dhoksho, goddess who is considered to be the goddess of the wealth, and the garland bearing Cupids and the Heracles. I will be dealing all in detail about all these specimens. Then we have the various relief panels also, which are basically the narrative panels, which illustrate the events in the life of the Buddha or the Shakyamuni that we know through various Jataka stories prior to the execution of the images of the Buddha. So you can see here, beside this, we also come across these kind of the nomad devotees also in the execution in the Gandhara art. And this is a famous example of the Dipankar Yatak here, which is made in the Sest here. You can see here, this has been come from this Gandhara region. Also, we come across this image of this beautiful image of the Gadura, which is abducting the queen Kakati, and she was the queen of Varanasi or Banaras. And you can see here, this also belongs to the same period of the Gandhara. It is made up of the grey schist stone. Then we have the gift of the Anathapindak. That story we know, how he purchased that garden for his construction of the monastery there for his master. So this is from the area of the Bactria. You can see here again, this specimen is housed in the Metropolitan Museum of Art, New York. So now coming to the main topic again, talking about the various cross-cultural interaction in this particular art style of the Gandhara art. You can see here, now I will be talking about what are those Greco-Roman elements which have been incorporated into the Gandhara word or Gandhara art. For this, various scholars, they have given the various views. So one of the prominent scholar or Indologist, Dr. V.S. Agrawal, he's of the view that with the life story of the Buddha and also the legendary Jatak, which were taken from the art of the Eastern India, that is from India, the Gandhara sculptors or the artists, they show a wide acquaintance with the Iranian as well as the Greco-Roman motif. So this Gandhara art was naturally a blend of the Indian, Iranian, as well as the Greco-Roman elements in its art form. So another great art historian, Anand Kumar Swami, he is of the opinion that this Gandhara art is iconographically in part almost altogether a local phase of the Hellenistic art. And Hellenistic art, we know that it was emerged after this death of Alexander the Great, and it descended from the art of the Greek period, but it was applied to the themes of the Indian origin. So he's of the view that the subject matter was Indian, but this art execution was Hellenistic in nature. So it may be described as representing an eastward extension of the Hellenistic civilization, which was mixed with the Iranian elements, and from another as a westward extension of the Indian culture in a Western garb. So this was the view of Anand Kumar Swamiji. Then Vincent Smith, he is of the opinion that this art of Gandhara is essentially Roman in style. Its model were Greco-Roman, not the pure Greek, and that we will be going to see through various examples. And it was developed by the artists of the Peshawar who adopted the Roman system of the design and the decoration, and probably they belong to a foreign colony resulting from the trade connection. So he's of the view that because of the trade connection, this particular art or the this Roman style came into this area of this Gandhara region. So far as the recent trends in the Gandhara studies are concerned by the various scholars, it can be mentioned that attention towards the investigations and the study of the early historic period has been given in recent times, and more Pakistani scholars such as A.H. Dani, Ahmad Sandani, Farid Khan, Abdur Rahman, Z. Cesare, F.A. Durrani, Muhammad Farooq Swati, Naseem Khan, others. These scholars have been involved rigorously in investigating this particular art style. So, as a whole, we can say that this Gandhara art is a product of the cultural elements which have been taken from the Hellenistic, Iranian, Roman, and Indian world. And here the artistic efforts, the icons, the legends, the monuments, together with their motifs, are eventually Buddhist. And the form is strongly Hellenistic, while the matter is yet Indian. So all these are my views, which after my research, I could find out. So consequently, many of the old motifs of the early schools have been retained, while some are modified and a few entirely have been transformed into the new form. So the patronage of the foreign artist by the Kushan is actually no more difficult to understand than the adoption of the Buddhism that we know through this particular dynasty of the Kushanas. So being the foreigners in India, when they came into the land of India, they could not be accepted into the Hindu faith, and presumably both their adoption of the Buddhism and support of a foreign culture were part of a policy which was designed to maintain their anatomy in the conquered land. Therefore, because in addition to the Indianized motifs such as the Atlantis, fantastic creatures like the griffins, flora and fauna of the India, the new motif of the vine, acanthus, cupids, garlands, and the other fabulous creatures like the hippocampus, Triton, marine divinities, the god of Olympus, all were introduced into the Gandhara art because of their association. So now you can see here, what are these Greco-Roman motifs? When we talk about the architecture, we find the introduction of the Corinthian pillars in this Gandhara art. We also find the use of this Ionic as well as the Doric pillars, which were the main architectural components of the Greek world. We also come across the execution of the cupids, garland festoons or the garland bearing erodes. We also find the mention of the Bacchanalian scenes, Greco-Roman costumes, laurel wreath on the foreheads of the females, the vine scrolls, mythical creatures like the centaur as well as the Triton, Demeter Hariti, who is holding the cornucopia, and the Amorini Yaksh, which is corresponding to the Indian Maladhari Devas. So all these were the Greco-Roman motifs which were taken into the Gandhara art. So I have devised this presentation or talk into this influence in the sphere of the architecture, the costumes, dress and drapery, coiffures and the headdresses, jewelry, as well as the execution of the cupids, the vine scrolls, as well as the Greco-Roman elements in the other spheres, and also the representation of the physiognomy of the Buddha as well as the Bodhisattva. So where all these Greco-Roman elements have been incorporated. So when we come across the architectural part, so again, one of the greatest scholar, Benjamin Rolland, he's of the view that this architecture of the buildings, which are depicted in the Gandhara relief, basically relief panel, which I told you, I divided all the specimens into the three parts. So one was the relief one. So all these Gandhara relief, they betray a mixture of the technique of the indigenous Indian school, which was influenced by the Roman, Eurasian, as well as the Hellenistic artists, which were patronized by the Kushan rulers. So like the sculptures, the history of the architecture in Gandhara is a separate foreign interlude in the development of the Indian art, which I'm not going to talk right now. So then, when we come across the unmistakable foreign impact in the architecture, which is depicted in the Gandhara sculptures, is eminent and is revealed distinctly in the Corinthian pillars, pilasters, as well as the Persepolitan columns. You can see here the West Asian components are also there, which have come across from the areas of the Iran. And these all are seen in the sculptures, which are supporting the flat trapezoidal roof of the palace as well as the palace interiors. These all examples we find in various relief. So you can see here some of the examples. So this is one of the famous so-called sign of the double-headed eagles at Sirkap. So very carefully you can notice here this particular Corinthian pillar capital. This is the Ionic pillar capital. You can see here. And here we can notice the existence of the Hellenistic, West Asian, as well as the Indian element in one structure. Here the shrine, it is resembling a classical Greek temple, not only on plan, but also in the fact that the two columns of the portico are of the Ionic order, which are built in accordance with the Greek method. You can see here, these Ionic pillars, you can see here, these all are made in the Greek, Greek pattern. You can see, this is the close-up of this one, this Greek style stupa basement at the Sirkap, at the site of Sirkas. Again, in many examples, when we talk about the Gandhar Corinthian capital, here the figures of the Buddha as well as the Bodhisattva, they are introduced into the foliage. You can see here. And this is a combination of the elements which is suggestive of the composite form of the Roman order. So this particular, again, idea was taken from the word of this Roman word. And again, there are other examples like the panel, which is illustrating the dream of the Queen Maya. And here it reveals the court hall of the King Shuddhodhan. And it is a spacious hall with the flat roof. You can see here, this is that panel, the roof supported by the pillars in the panel of this dream of Queen Maya. You can see here. And here, and again, in the panel of the interpretation of the Maya's dream, the room with the trapezoidal roof is supported by the Corinthian pillars. Again, you can see here. These all are the examples of the Corinthian pillars in this particular. Here, this the dream is being interpreted by the sage Ashit after the birth of Lord Buddha. Again, here you can see here this trapezoidal roof decorated with wavy lines in the panel, interpretation of the Maya's dream. Again, this dream is being interpreted by the sage Ashit. And here the figure depicting the Indo-Corinthian columns. So you can see here the Indo-Corinthian, Indian as well as the Roman, both have been just mixed in this particular Corinthian column in the panel of the marriage of the Siddhartha as well as the Yashodhara. So we have various examples in the sphere of the architecture. We can see here the introduction of the Roman elements into this Gandhara art. Coming to the Greco-Roman elements in the representation of the physiognomy of the Buddha as well as the Bodhisattva, that is the main attraction of this particular Gandhara art that all of us know about this one. So we see many artistic, stylistic elements in the representation of the Buddha as well as the Bodhisattva, which point to the Greek influence. For example, the Greco-Roman toga-like, that is the wavy robe covering both the shoulders, and it is basically more like a Greek himation. This is a dress. And again, we have the Hellenistic stance of the upright figures and the stylized Mediterranean, that is the curly hair, as well as the top note, which is known as Ushnish. And apparently, these all are derived from the style of the Apollo, that is the Greek god. And the old, that is the tuft of the hair between the eyebrow, they are indicated by a depression, which was basically meant for a semi-precious stone, insertion of the semi-precious stone in this specimens. And the measured quality of the faces, all rendered with the strong artistic realism. So a large quantity of the sculptures which combine the Buddhist as well as the Hellenistic styles, they are iconographically same, and they were excavated at the Gandhara site of the Hadda. And here, at this particular examples, the Greek artists, they were most probably the authors of these early representation of the Buddha. So these all specimens are considered to be the early representation of the Buddha, and that is one of the most important point or the contribution of this Gandhara school of art, that is the emergence of the Buddha image. So in particular, the standing statue, which display a realistic treatment of the folds, and on some event a hint of the model volumes that characterize the best Greek word in this. You can see here the Roman influence at the Gandhara here. These icons reflect much more vividly the influence of the Roman artisans who had originally inspired this particular tradition of the execution of this art specimens in the Gandhara art. You can see the finest example. Another example here, the hairstyle of these figures again is of the reminiscent of the Greek god Apollo. You can see here how beautifully these hairstyles have been executed. Here, the Buddha has been shown with these mustaches. Again, it may reflect the Roman influence. The toga like the garments, you can see here, toga like garments, sandals, wearing the sandals, which I will be showing in the next slides, they all are clearly this Roman. You can see here, Bodhisattva Maitreyi, he is wearing the sandal, which is draped like a Greek statue, but wearing a chingon and a mustaches. You can see here, these all are clearly indications of the impact of the Roman word into the art of this Gandhar school. Slides are not moving. You can see here.
I think the file size is large.
Yes, sir.
So
Very.
you can just keep, if you just give it a little bit of a time, it will move.
Okay, sir. So you can see here, again here, Buddha Shakya Muni here is attended by two of the Bodhisattva, Maitreyi, as well as this Avalokiteshwar here. This is found from the areas of the Peshawar region in Pakistan. And again, it is from the reign of the Kanishkas too. Here, you can see here how beautifully this Gandhar, the Roman impact can be visualized on these images. Again, you can see here the execution of this Buddha with the mustache. This particular specimen from the Museum de Gemit, Paris. You can see here, this is a bust of the Buddha from the Takshila region, Gandhar. Now this is housed in the Museum of Asian Art at Corfu, Greece. You can see again here, you can find out the execution very clearly. You can see here the impact of this Kushana art as well as the art of this impact of this Roman word on this particular image. Basically, the halo, this portion, this halo is basically simple in case of the Gandhara, but this is the only example where we can find here the decorated halo in case of, and also the execution of this acanthus leaf motif. And acanthus leaf motif is particularly, this is a Greek word art form which have been taken into this Gandhara art. You can see these all are the beautiful example. This is the ordnance. I was talking about this one. This was basically meant for the insertion of the semi-precious stone on this particular specimen. How beautifully these have been made in this blue stone at the site of the Gandhar. This is the head of the Bodhisattva from the Gandhara again of this Kushan period. You can see these all are some of the beautiful examples of the specimen of the Gandhara art. Now coming to the impact of the Roman word onto the costumes as well as dress and drapery. And here we can notice the craftsmen of the Gandhar. They brought with them the Greco-Roman style, which were particularly basically in the drapery of the sculpture, so that the Buddha as well as the Bodhisattva, they represented there were dressed in the classical Greek as well as the Roman garments like the chiton, himation, stola, tunic, palla, toga, chalmas. So all these dresses or the costumes were of the Greek as well as the Roman word, and these all we will find depicted into the specimens of this Gandhar word. You can see here one of the most beautiful example of this toilet tray. You can see here this male lover. He is wearing, which is depicted on this toilet tray, which has been found from the site of the Takshila in excavation. And here the male lover, he is wearing a Greek dress, which is known as tribon. Greek dress tribon. And this particular dress was worn by the Doric state man, by the man in the Greek word. And he is shown wearing a hooded mantle also. You can see here. This is a hooded mantle of a pattern, which was again of the Greek countryman, worn by the Greek countryman, and the mantles known to the Greek were mainly and included those as the chalmais, trobans, as well as the paplos. So in all probably, this which is represented in this particular sculpture is basically a tribon. This is a tribon which he is wearing, and you can see here, this is the female lover who is kneeling at the side female lover who is kneeling at the side of this male lover who is trying to pull the garment of this particular female. She is wearing a himation or a shawl like this garment or the costume with which is being pulled by his companion or this male lover. You can see here. Again, in this particular Gandhara dynastic scene found from this Gandhara region, which is right now housed in the Lahore Museum. Again, you can very clearly, you can see here this dress style of this female lover, this amorous couple. Again, in this particular panel of this Lord Indra, you can see here, you can see here again this Indra, he is wearing a short Doric tunic. You can see here, Indra, he is Indra at the back of this Lord Buddha. So you can see here, he is wearing a short Doric tunic with the scallop turned over it. You can see here how beautifully Indra has been shown wearing this Doric tunic. And again, in this sea or river deities, which is housed in the British Museum, here the river deities, they are depicted in the relief, reveal very interesting type of the dress. You can see here, they are shown wearing around their waist with the acanthus leaves, which appear growing out of the body itself. You can see here how beautifully the artists, they have made or used this particular leaf motif as a garment, which was used by the Greco-Roman words. Again, in this panel, this panel is from this Indian Museum, Kolkata. So here you can see here, this in Gandhara art, this amorous couple and the image of the Hariti, they wear a sleeveless long chiton. So this is a long chiton which reaches up to her feet, and it is secured by a belt here. You can see it, twisted belt here. You can see here around the waist. So all these are clearly influence of the Roman word. Again, in this panel of the starving Bodhisattva, you can see here Sujata, who is offering the kheer or the payas to this starving Bodhisattva or the dying Buddha. She is wearing a Greek dress chiton. So you can see, which is reaching up to her feet, and she is wearing a himation also. You can see. So all these dresses, they are of this Greco-Roman in origin. And here you can see here, this is an interesting type of the dress which is shown in the sculpture in a yakshi standing beneath a sal tree in the Indian Museum, Kolkata. This is from that particular. It also belongs to the Gandhara art only. She is seen wearing a sort of the Greek coat. And you can see it is depicted by the 3 lines here with a brooch in the center. So you can see here, all these are the beautiful dresses which were used by the artist in the Gandhara art. Coming to the category of the influence in the sphere of the coiffures as well as the headdresses, it was obviously seen into the hairstyle of the male as well as the female. So in respect of these coiffures known to the people, the Gandhara sculptures, they offer many varieties, revealing the native as well as the foreign origin. Generally, man, as is evident from the sculptures, had long hair and a curly hair that we have seen in case of the Buddha. And the curly hair is a hairstyle of the Greek origin, which were introduced into Gandhara in the 4th century BC. And sometimes hair was formed back and sideways from the forehead, leaving a knot at the front. And this is again obviously a hairstyle of the Greek origin. And this type of the coiffure is to be seen with the Indra. Again, you can see here Indra with this type of this hairstyle represented in the panel. This is the panel, the gift of the bundle of the grass, which is from the Peshawar Museum. And again, same kind of execution of this hairstyle can be seen in the panel of the Mahaparinirman of the Buddha. So again, you can see here in the panel of the Buddha and the Vajrapani, you can see again Indra here. The long hair of the Indra is combed sideways, allowing it to dangle on his nape. You can see here. And in all these cases, the Indra is seen having a thick beard. So Indra has been shown with the thick beard, which is the only example in case of the Gandhara art. And it seems to have been the main feature of the Gandhara art. You can see this is a specimen from the Berlin Museum. Again, in this particular in the panel of the Gandhara, river deities or the river god, he reveals a quite interesting type of the coiffure. He has dressed his hair dividing into the 3 panels. You can see 1, 2 at the back. 3 panels as shown in the sculptures and with the knot at the back. You can see here, knot at the back. And the hairstyle is non-Indian and obviously of the Hellenistic in origin or the Greco-Roman in origin. You can see here, the Prince Siddhartha appears in the panel with the hair dressed in an egg-shaped ball. You can see here, is the hair in the form of the egg-shaped ball, again of the Greek in origin. This is that panel, the Siddhartha going to the school for the first time, that is that panel. And here you can see that execution of this particular hairstyle of this particular specimen. Now coming to the female hairstyle in case of the Gandhara art, the women they have been portrayed in the Gandhara sculptures, they also show a variety of the coiffures. You can see here, a lady is depicted in the panel of this presentation of the bride to the Siddhartha. This is the marriage scene of the Lord Buddha in Gandhara art. It reveals a type of the coiffure in which her hair is gathered into a bundle or the bun. You can see here in the bun here or arrondissement on her occiput. And her hair style and the dress worn by her all reveal the Greek style or the Greek origin. You can see clearly here the impact of the Greek word on this hair style also. Again, in this panel, showing the presentation of the bride to Siddhartha, this is a close-up view of this one. This is from the Takhte Museum, British Museum right now. Again, in this panel, which I have already shown you earlier also. Here, the similar example can be seen in this amorous lady depicted in the panel, drinking scene of the 2 couples. You can see here, the bun which makes it appear, you can see bun here. Bun of this particular lady is again evidently of the Hellenistic origin. And the Greek as well as the Roman ladies, they showed greater aptitude in combing their hair into a bun form. So again, this is the scene, drinking scene of the 2 couple, which is carved on the this lion-footed pedestal housed in the Lahore Museum. Again, in this final example of the coiffures, you can see here the coiffure of this particular 2 attendants here. This is the scene of the first birth of Lord Buddha in the Gandhara art. You can see here. Again, these attendants are depicted in the panel of this one. They have the top note. You can clearly see in this panel also. So these all are arranged in the top note form. This is the closer view of that particular specimen. So again, in the birth of the Buddha, as well as the 7 steps, the type of the hairstyle in the female attendant is shown, in which the hair is simply allowed to fall onto his forehead. So these all are various examples. You can see here various examples of the hairstyle of this particular lady. Coming to the category of the jewelry, where we can notice the Greco-Roman impact in the Gandhara art. So here the styles as well as the types of the pieces which worn reflect the influence of the jewelry tradition, characteristics of the Indic cultural tradition as well as those of the Hellenistic or the Greco-Indian world. The Gandhara sculptures, they depict the male as well as the female wearing different kind of the ornaments. For example, the jewelry which was found from the Takshila excavation, you can see here the string of the amulet boxes here. That is an inevitable feature of the primary figure here. And we have come across a gold repository plaque representing the Cupid as well as the Psyche here. You can see I will be showing and it is possibly an actual example of the type of the turban pins. Basically, it was used as turban pins, and the ear ornaments with the lion motif. This one, ear ornament with the lion motif, which is worn by the Maitreyi or the Bodhisattva. So all these are with the Greek impact. You can see here. This is the close-up of this one. And the earring is composed of a circlets of this twisted wire. You can see here. Tapering from the lion's head at the front end to a point. And the much attention is given towards the naturalistic rendering of the animal's facial feature. You can see here, animal's facial feature, such as the wide open eyes, ears, nose, as well as the mane. And this fine piece testifies the refinement of the gold working in the ancient Greeks during the Hellenistic period. So we will find the use of all these ornaments in the Gandhara sculptures. Another example of this jewelry, that is the kundal of gold, that is the leech and pendant type. Here the ring, here in this ring, the leech is attached itself to the ear and the pendant bird is suspended by a movable ring with the granulation is found frequently in the Gandhara art. You can see here, though this technique of granulation again came from this word of this Greco-Roman word, basically from the site of Palmyra. This technique of granulation came in was brought from the Parthians in 150 CE, and that we can notice in the execution in the Gandhara art very clearly. So again here, earring in the form of the griffins, you can see here, have been found from the Gandhara region, and a gold earring in the Virginia Museum. This is from the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts, from the Richmond collection. Again, it is with this embellished with the fine granules, and this single earring is in the three-dimensional form of a griffin. So again, this technique of this three-dimensional form in the form of the griffin, which has been found in the Gandhar word, has been come from the Greco-Roman word.
Any problem?
Just stuck, yeah.
Yeah.
So we have other spheres also where we can clearly notice the impact of this Greco-Roman this word, or we find the use of the Greco-Roman elements in other spheres, and there are various examples. For example, in the saucer, when we come across in the excavation, we have found so many saucers. Basically, they all are the Greek fiat. You can see here. These all are the that I will be just showing you, and these basically are the Greek drinking vessels. They are made in the form of the saucers or the bonds. They are very common among the Greek vessels, and the goblets that we know they are found in the Gandhara relief are typical of this Parthian as well as the Greek word. You can see this is the fiat example of this goblet or the fiat, which is again of the typical of this Greco-Roman word. We also come across the influence of the Greco-Roman word in the musical instruments also, which have been depicted in the Gandhara art. For example, in the panel of the family drinking scene of the 5 figures, you can see here a male. This is the family drinking scene of the 5 figures, which have been found from this Hadda region. And you can see here you can see how beautifully the artist, here male drummer is shown wearing the foreign dress, this male dress drummer, wearing the foreign dress, and he is playing at this tambourine, and it is identified by Sir John Marshall as a Greek tympanum. It has been identified or associated with the Greek tympanum. You can see, or in Indian parlance, we call it as duffly. We call it as duffly. You can say very clearly, this is a Greek musical instrument, which is tympanum, which has been used in this particular scene. Now coming to the another category where we find this execution is the Cupid motifs in the Gandhara art, and these are basically the garland bearing these winged cupids. They are holding the rich garlands. Sometimes they are adorned with the fruits, and these all are very much frequently you will find in the art of this Amravati, Gandhar, this Nagarjunikonda, and in the Gandhara region. So they usually fly in the pair. These particular cupids, they hold a wreath, and we know that this holding the wreath is a Greek symbol of the victory and the kingship over the Buddha. You can see. So garland with the grapes hanging from the bottom of the loop was main feature of the East, and they appear on the sarcophagus from the Hadrianic as well as the Antonine period. You can see these all are this particular from the sarcophagus from the Tel Barak region of Palestine, as well as this Roman sarcophagus from the garland. You can see these all have been taken into the Gandhara art from this art of this Roman world. You can see these all are the example of from the areas of this Amravati. You can see Cupid as well as the Gandhara from the Gandhara region. You can see again garland bearers from the Gandhara region. And again in this panel of this showing the offering of the 4 balls, 1, 2, 3, 4 balls to the Buddha. Again, you can see here the garland bearing cupids in this execution of this one. All have been taken from, this is the close-up of that one. And again, it is from this Greco-Roman word. In the wine scroll motifs of the Gandhara, again here you can find out the influence from the Flavian period of the Greek word. and it is most probably or certainly it is of Hellenistic in origin, and it was used in the Greek word. And here you can see here they have been used with a vine pattern, and they are reflection of the late development of the form in the Roman world. You can see here. This is the example from the Sari Balor, in which this is from the Gandhara region of the Sari Balor. You can see here very beautifully here. The plants are filled with the putti, apes, as well as the birds, and the variety of the animals is very deeply undercut, so that the black and the white effect of the carving is distinctly reminiscent of the pilaster of the Basilica at Lepsis Magna. You can see this is the same example of the Basilica of the Lepsis Magna, and same kind of execution you can see in these examples from the Sari Balor. Execution of these vine skull motifs. Another example of the vine skull motifs, and again here the same example of the vine skull motifs here. Very interestingly, you will find the depiction of the Roman imperial art here, but here two animals you can see here, the peacock have been added, and the monkey also. Monkey, you can see it here. So peacock and monkey have been again added into this this art form here. You can see. So coming to the conclusion of my lecture, and this is the last part of my lecture. So we can, after the analysis of all these art specimens, we can see that the specimens of the Gandhara art, so no doubt Greco-Roman elements in the dress, in the this accoutrements, jewelry, wafers, beside the composite capital of the acanthus and the volutes which we have seen, and the introduction of the Roman themes such as the drinking party, and the externalities of the life in the Gandhara art is again the resultant of the Hellenistic impact, which is not penetrated into the art of the Mathura style, which we can see in the art specimens of the Mathura. And the study of the Gandhara sculptures also reveals that the sculptors of the Gandhara, as they depicted the Buddhist themes, had in their mind the contemporary persons and the things around them. That is why we find the impact of the Apollo into the execution of the Buddha as well as the Bodhisattva. And the sculptors, they supplied the personal as well as the background in accordance with the requirement of the text as per the Buddhist text. And I have given you the examples. And it is quite possible that they have supplied the exact parallels with those occurring in the Jatakas and the life scenes from amongst the society as well as the environment. Thus, many of the items which are found in the Gandhara art may have been indigenous to the country of which that particular region of northwest frontier, and it is surrounding that form the part of this particular art style. And if an assimilation process of the element from other culture, it is set in motion, it is slowly transform the Greek model into the new aesthetic language and a mosaic which the anonymous local artisans managed to compose in an original design. Thus, the unique and composite language of the Gandhara art, blending and transforming Hellenistic, Roman, Indian, and Persian elements, became an artistic lingua franca, and that can be read and understood by all the people from northern India and the Central Asia. Thank you very much. These are some of the important books which you can just go on to know about more about this particular topic. So thank you very much for your kind listening. If you have any query, I will be happy to just answer it.
Thank you, Dr. Vinay Kumar, for an excellent introduction. I have a few questions, and some of the viewers have also asked few questions. Would you like to keep the presentation? You can end it. You can end it also. Yeah.
No, sir, it's okay, sir.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. So let me first ask, we're talking about the influence of Greco-Roman art. Why are we saying that? Because we do know that the Greeks came here.
Yeah.
Under Alexander, right?
Yeah.
Now, after that, they left, a Bactrian Indo-Greek kings, and they went up. Now, where is the Roman influence coming from? I understand the possibility of a Greek influence.
Yeah.
But then, beyond the Bactrian region was the great, huge Iranian, Persian empire, which which regrouped after Alexander's time, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So Rome was farther away. So why is that, Greco-Roman influence as a coinage even coming from?
Sir, this was basically after the death of Alexander the Great that we know in 323 BC. And when they occupied or they conquered the region of this Egypt, then only we come across the impact of this Greek or the Roman word basically into the art of the Greek. And that particular art style, which later on penetrated into the further eastward, that is why we come across this introduction of all these influences into the art of this Indian subsoil. And it was through the agency of this Iran, as well as the Achaemenian, basically the Achaemenian people, or the West Asia, you can say. So it was through the agency of the West Asia that all these elements penetrated into the eastward.
So what you are saying is that when the Greeks came, that was in, let's say we are talking about 2nd, 3rd century BC.
Yeah.
And 3rd century BC, let's say.
3rd century
right?
BC. But we have very few mentions about that one, because we have few inscriptions of the Ashoka where the king,
in a sense, Greek art did not sort of settle down at that time.
No, sir.
It was only an army that came.
Yeah.
The people were left behind. The generals were there.
Yes.
But we start seeing the art form emerging only by the time of Kushana period, by which time Rome has already emerged. Rome borrows most of Greek ideas and concepts.
Yes.
And then there is a second wave of, not a second wave, I mean a wave of maybe artisans came here, artists were imported, styles were borrowed. I don't know. I understand so it was not from the time of Alexander. We are talking much later.
Sir, I would like to tell in this regard, when we talk about the Mauryan art, so we know that in the Mauryan art, we have the great impact of the West Asian world, basically the art of the Iran, whether it was the execution of the pillars of the modern pillars. So what happened when the artisans of this Alexander the Great, because we know about the great battle of this with the Porus and how his army, they were just tired and they refused to go further eastward and they denied for the battle. And at that time, when they were thus homeless, or rather to say, when they were refusing, they were just jobless also, because we know that about the vast vision of Alexander the Great. Wherever he used to go, he used to took so many great people with him, whether it was geographer, scientist, or the artist, he used to take with him. So when he died, so all of them were jobless. So there are so many views of different scholars, like this M.K. Dhavalikar, is a great archaeologist as well as art historian. So he's of the opinion that when these artists were just homeless, jobless, so they were invited by Chandragupta Maurya in his court. And on the invitation of the Chandragupta Maurya, they came to the court of the Mauryans and they had executed their own art style into the art style of the modern period. That is why, but the main reason through which they had come, it was from this area of the Iran or the Persia, because at there also we are finding the tall tapering pillars there. But here with the capitals, but their capital was at the base, our capital was at the top, the lion capital or the bull capital or the elephant capital, whatever what the capitals were there. So it was the art, but in some of the examples, for example, when we talk about the famous our lion capital, which is our national emblem also from the Sarnath region, here we can clearly notice about the influence of the Greek word also. So in addition to the West Asian word, we also come across the influence of the Greek word into the Mauryan art also. So it was not after the 3rd or 4th century AD that we come across the great impact of the Kushana art of these people into the art of India. It was very earlier also. It was early also.
Okay. But for me, the other big question is that
Yeah.
we don't have the influence of the Persian Iranian art. When we see the pictures, when we see the
Yeah.
masterpiece of Persia, we don't see that at all reflecting in any part of India. It is very, very distinct, right? You have all those you talked about the Behistun
Inscription.
but the
Yeah.
Behistun images, for example,
Yeah.
right? That is not reflecting in any of Indian. You see in Gandhara, you have the influences of Greco-Roman.
Yeah.
But the very close, from a stone's throw away from, Gandhara is Persia. But you don't see that at all. That influence is not there in look and feel, in images, in hairstyle, in arms, in dress, nothing.
Yeah.
If you keep any of them, why is that?
So, because I told you that they were greatly influenced by their own local artistic traditions of the Roman world as well as the Greek world. So they have not incorporated into this one. But the earlier art styles, basically the modern art style, they have taken all these elements into the Indian art. But they are not, because they were in the same locality. When we talk about that northwest frontier area, so that was the area of this Kushanas main area, where the Peshawar was their capital. So they have executed their own style into that one. So very much this influence is not noticed in their art specimens. Only few, like the Parthians, they have just incorporated. In one example, I saw you wearing the cap, that one. So that was a typical Parthian cap in that specimen.
Okay. So out of few questions, I will just combine them with my own questions.
Yeah.
Venkatesh asks, what kind of animals were found in this region? That is the Gandhara region itself. And therefore, in the art form, do we see too many animals in the Gandhara art, such as lions, elephants, etc.?
No, because we know that for that we have to understand a little bit about the Greek art. That we know the essential feature of the Greek art, they emphasis more on humanism, because they pay more attention or emphasis about the executing the details of the body.
Okay.
That is why we don't find the more execution of the animals in case of the Gandhara art. This is also the main point on which I am working. Why we are finding the less animals in case of the Gandhara art. Rather, in the other art forms in India, we find very hybrid forms in the Kushana art only. We have the griffins in case of this Mauryan period, in the Sunga period, subsequent period. We have so many hippocampus. We have tritons. We have so many sea animals as well as land animals, and even this celestial animals also, birds also.
Okay. So there is another question from Ramki. He wants to know if all the Bodhisattva representations have mustaches.
No, only in case of Maitreyi, they are executed basically with the mustaches.
Has it got to do with descriptions in the text?
No, sir. There is no any mention of the text. I told you they were influenced by their own art style. Yeah, they don't have any this description.
Okay. So going back to the Kushanas themselves, right? Now, Kushanas were the sort of
their own reason.
Tribes people between the India-China region, right? They were most likely having their own language, their own tradition, their own gods. But as they are entering the Indic civilizational space, they take on names, language, gods, or the Indian religions, both the Buddhism and Hinduism. And completely moving into the Indian space, so to speak, both in terms of geography and in terms of cultural space, right? So what was the reason that they were being pushed into the Indic region instead of the Chinese region? I mean, what was happening in the Chinese side of the geography at that particular time, when the Kushanas were getting into the Gandhara region.
Yeah. I told you that in my first, when I began, I told you that there were 5 confederacy of the 5 tribes there. And among those tribes, the Kovai Chawang, which is known as later on the Kushanas, and among that, the Bhima Kadphises, he was the main ruler. So he was compelled to push towards the eastern direction, towards India. So when he came towards this region, so he was very much eclectic in nature. And he thought that if I am not going to incorporate because they were basically the traders, they were on the trade routes only of the Silk Route. And there were so many tradition and interaction was going on. So when they thought that when I'm going towards penetrating towards the east, and if I'm not accepting their own religion, so I'm not going to survive in this particular this land. So that is why the Kanishka is said to be the most famous and the indigenous ruler into the India. He is not considered to be this tribal leader or this one. Kanishka is, even by the name, you can understand that he is.
By which time the name has changed. And then subsequently it becomes Vasudeva, and
yes, Yomishka also.
Figure out,
So that is why, and beside that, we also find the depiction of the Zoroastrianism, the Iranian, Greek goddesses, the Roman god and goddesses. So they were
in all its points. The entire range of gods across.
So this was the reason, sir.
Okay. Now, talking of which, the other major name that we hear around this time or close enough is that of Kumarajiva, right? Who maybe a little later, right? Who travels? I mean, we have solid record of the Chinese records of how he went from the Gandhara region to the Chinese influenced regions, where significant effort was put in by him in translating the Buddhist text to the I guess probably the tribal languages as well as the Chinese thing. Now, that is only the literature or religion flowing. Do we have any idea of Indian art form moving into China?
Yes, sir.
The reason why I'm asking, just before, and let me just add this, because we have seen all those.
Yes, sir. We have so many.
Right? But they don't anything about Gandharan in them.
Very few influence on the Gandhar word we can find into the Chinese art tradition. But when we move further east into the art of the China, in the art of the South Korea, I have one paper on the influence of the Gandhara art on the China, this Chinese art, Japanese art, as well as South Korean art. So there we find, more particularly in case of the Heracles, which is the Vajrapani. So how it is transformed there, and it became this guardian deity of their temples. When you go there, in case of Japan, more particularly in Nara region, or in case of South Korea, so there you will find that the huge giant-like structures at the installed at the door front in the entrance of this temple only. So all these are the Heracles. They were transformed there, and this was basically the Vajrapani. It was transformed, but very few influence of this Gandhara word we can find into the art of the China.
Okay, that's a question that a variation of that is what Anand Dabak is also asking. Did any Indian art element travel back to Greece, Rome, or the impact is only one way from Greek and Roman to Indian side?
So you see, always the impact is not one way. So I have not worked on the opposite side, the reverse side, or the vice versa. I haven't worked. I have to work on this one. Must be some this Indian element must have been traveled to their world also. We cannot deny this fact.
Yeah. For example, this Pompeii, what they call as the Yakshi, the Lakshmi of Pompeii. Right? Is that something that was created in the Indian region, which went there to Pompeii, or was it something that was crafted there itself? Do we know for certain?
Because we have to understand for that Begram was considered to be one of the most important trading center at the time of the Kushanas. So in my opinion, it was just manufactured there only. It must be manufactured there, and it has been found at that place.
Okay. And let me ask one more question about the material, right? We talked about a range of material from ivory to
Metals,
very softer forms of stone to terracotta and cloth and gold and all kinds of jewelry. You showed us a whole range, right? Now, somehow it seems to me that terracotta in the Greco-Roman art in Greece and Rome regions, were they using terracotta as much?
it was very few in numbers, very few in number. And in several museums, we can notice that one, but it was not profuse in quantity. It was the blue schist or the gray schist that was profusely used for the execution of their art specimens. And sometimes
No, I'm not talking about what was done here in the Gandhara region, but I'm talking about this, the Greco-Romans themselves.
Yeah.
Were they using, they wouldn't have used ivory because ivory is not available in that region. It is completely.
Yeah.
But were they using terracotta in Greece and Rome?
No, sir. It was in later period, not in the earlier
so
period.
it must have been Indian material in a sense.
Yeah.
Which probably was used by the local artists, and the styles came in, and then they were applied to the material that was quite prevalent here.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting. And this is a very, very interesting insight. There's so much that we can learn. So there's a question from Mali Nandakumar.
Yeah.
What fabric types were used? Any evidence of embroidery?
Sir, I haven't come across this one, so I am not in a position to answer this one, sir. Embroidery.
Okay. But in terms of fabric itself, because I think you showed
cotton cloth. I told you. Yeah. Cotton. Sir.
Okay.
Silk also might be there, because in Central Asia we have got so many examples where we can find these paintings. So silk and cotton, we can say.
Okay. So one thing that we can say is that the Gandhara art primarily defined the Buddhist art, though there was quite a bit of non-Buddhist, the Hindu elements. It is predominantly basically Buddhist.
Correct?
The question therefore is, though Jainism is more or less coeval with that, why wasn't something distinct that was created in the Jaina space?
So it was because of the flexibility in this particular tradition or this religion of the Buddhism, that is why it is finding more prominent place among all. Even you see this Buddhism, it penetrated up to so many Southeast Asian countries, and it didn't travel. Jainism, very few specimens or very few examples we find abroad. We do not find much, sir, because of its main principles of this in the religion itself, sir.
No, I understand it spread. It never spread outside of the largely Indic borders. Buddhism did spread everywhere. I mean, we have seen it
the main reason,
all over,
sir. So main reason for this one was the patronage, sir, the royal patronage. So we can see here in the Han Dynasty or in the Greco-Roman world also, or in this Kushan period only. Kanishka himself, he has constructed a stupa at this Kanishka, that we know. That was 7 stories stupa. So it was the patronage. In my view, it was the patronage, because of the patronage only.
Okay, very interesting. So for us, where we have very limited understanding of these art forms, when we start learning about the art of India, we talk about the Indus Valley art.
Yeah.
Then we talk about this Mauryan
art,
which we have significant material available from pillars and rock edicts and whatever carved there, and particularly pillars. and the capitals, etc. And then we jump to Gandhara and Mathura. And when we talk of that, then there is this extraordinary external influence which comes in at the Gandhara art form. It was a great session today for us to get a good introduction of that. Thank you for that. We hope to read many of your, maybe some research papers and some of the articles.
So it is available on the Google Scholar and Academia, sir. Yeah.
So we will get to know more about this. Thank you for your wonderful lecture, and thanks to all the viewers from Tamil Heritage Trust. We will meet again the first week of next month with yet another lecture.
Thank you, sir.
You have anything more to add, sir, before we close?
Thank you very much for your kind, sir, just invitation. And I'm very much overwhelmed for your kind gesture, sir. Thank you.
Thank you all.